The U.S. is in a position where they have to debase and weaken the currency. It is implied in the current state of the U.S. dollar. The purchasing power of the dollar over a long enough time frame is only going down, no other direction. Everyone in this room knows that your relationship with Bitcoin is different as soon as you own a little bit.
Jack Mallers is never one to hold back, and in this interview, he delivers some of his most hard-hitting insights yet. He breaks down why the US accumulating Bitcoin could trigger a global scramble for digital reserves, why the traditional financial system is failing everyday Americans, and how Bitcoin offers a once-in-a-generation opportunity for financial empowerment. With inflation crushing purchasing power and real estate becoming unattainable for most, Bitcoin is emerging as the great equalizer, an asset anyone can own that's outperformed even the biggest Wall Street titans. And if that wasn't enough, Mallers also shares his thoughts on the new administration, the policies that could supercharge Bitcoin's adoption, and why the US must align itself with the fastest growing, most valuable technology of our time. Stick around, hit the like button to boost this video, and subscribe for more high-level insights from the biggest names in Bitcoin and finance. Now let's get into it.
When the United States starts to accumulate Bitcoin, how do you view what happens after that? Is it just a mad dash? Every country in the world says, oh my God, we are behind the ball. We've got to go and acquire this as well. And Bitcoin goes to $1 million. Or is there some other, path that you see?
Yeah, I think what we're living through right now, I would describe as the unwind from World War II, or the world wars generally, right? I would say, just to remind everyone, not that you don't know, but the world was decimated, right? And the US was in a strong position. And the global relationship came about as the US effectively saying, hey, we'll help you guys get off your feet. I'll tell you what, you can produce stuff for us and we will export you the new world reserve currency to kind of get you back up on your feet. You need a customer. You need someone to import your goods and services. And also, if we produce stuff locally in the US, we'd have no one to export it to because you guys are decimated, crushed, and poor. And so you've seen all these markets importing real stuff into the US, all the stuff we need. Oil, food, right? All the stuff that we all consume. And we get 2-car garages and we get the big flat screen TVs. And in return, we distributed the new world reserve currency, which was the US dollar. Okay, that worked and was very kind of us in a biased American way. Obviously we get our advantages from that. But I think where the world is now is like, okay, cool. Thanks for helping us get back on our feet. Now what? Because we don't want to give you guys real stuff to consume and have amazing lives in exchange for this piece of paper you print. And you see Russia, you see China, they don't want to continue to buy our debt. The amount of treasuries that they are investing in is going down. They're talking about BRICS. I don't think that's an actual threat or anything we'll see in practice, but it's a rotation away from the dollar. No world reserve currency has had any staying power because you have to operate in a deficit. You have to export your currency and import real stuff, and it's unsustainable. You're importing goods in debt to give out a piece of paper. And so where I think we are is in the very early innings, and Bitcoiners get excited, and I'm one of the ones most guilty for that, of a rotation back to neutral reserve asset for the world. And if the United States acknowledges that Bitcoin carries those properties, even in a minor way, but says, listen, the story of humanity is engineering a better world. And this Bitcoin thing looks like it maps very well to that thesis and story of our species, and it carries the properties that are necessary to transition to a neutral reserve asset. I think that's a huge deal in the grand scheme. I'm talking centuries of evolution of the geopolitical and macroeconomic relationships between the most powerful nations in the world.
Talk a little bit about the pain that the average American family is in, and how you, who has a business where you are interfacing with kind of retail everyday citizens as your user, see their lives changing once they begin to start to adopt Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, listen, again, the U.S. is in a position where they have to debase and weaken the currency. It is implied in the current state of the U.S. dollar. You know, you've seen this iterations, like you have 1933, we're going to confiscate your gold. Then you have 1971, screw the gold standard. We're going to give ourselves the ability to debase and weaken the currency as needed. We're not going to be governed by the laws of Mother Nature. And so it's pretty implied that the purchasing power of the dollar over a long enough time frame is only going down, no other direction. So what does that mean for the reason there's such a large wealth gap in America is because you either own assets or you don't. When they weaken the dollar, that's good for assets. That means real estate's going up. That means your stock portfolio is going up. That means the Miami mansion on the water is going to go from being worth $1 million to $100 million. And that means, you know, someone hardworking and lucky enough can acquire it to only Ken Griffin is going to be able to buy it. That's because of a weaker dollar. And so what you have is a very binary divide in the country. You either can afford Manhattan real estate, beachfront real estate, large assets that are expensive and are usually passed down generationally and have some advantage, or you're more paycheck to paycheck, savings account. You kind of have a Robinhood stock portfolio and you're punting some stuff based on following Pomp on Twitter. And it's that category of America that's growing, because it's very hard to outpace the amount of currency that the U.S. has to issue. And so let's say if listen, inflation, just to be clear, is not 2 to 3%. What they're measuring it in is 2 to 3%, but the government doesn't know what you want. If you want to live in Miami in a nice house, it's not 2 to 3%, it's 20%. Put it another way, if you're not getting a 20% raise every single year, you cannot make progress towards owning a nice house in Miami, period, or Manhattan, right? And so the ability to outpace that and the ability of folks that are grouped into working as hard as they can, but getting less out of life. So yeah, I mean, it's terrible. And then just to end on a more positive note, you know, not everyone can get Miami beachfront real estate. Not everyone can get Manhattan real estate. Not everyone can get access in Silicon Valley to the new Facebooks and the new NVIDIAs of the world, but everyone can get Bitcoin. And it's the best performance of all of these anyway. I've outperformed Ken Griffin by doing nothing but buying Bitcoin. And so that is the most empowering part, is that everyone can be an asset holder, an owner of property, and actually gain benefit from a depreciating currency and protect their ability to have a better life tomorrow than they do today.
How do you view the new administration and their support for Bitcoin and what they should do?
I hate politics, man.
Got him.
I mean, what do I think they should do? Or what? I mean, listen, what did I tell?
If you were president for the day, what would you do?
No, I mean, we could go back, rewind time a bit. What did I tell another president to do? I told him, listen, governments aren't designed to be good at engineering consumer products. So I was very against the Chivo wallet, for example. What do you want? You want Jack Dorsey, you want Michael Saylor, you want these guys to come build stuff for your citizens. Jack Dorsey's going to be way better at building stuff than you are. So give favorable regulation, favorable tax treatment, allow them to invest back into your country, right? Look at what Tether's doing. Tether has probably invested more in El Salvador because they've gotten favorable regulation and favorable tax treatment than if they were trying to claw pennies out of them with overtaxation, right? So pro-regulation, pro-growth, or pro-favorable regulation, pro-growth, be reasonable in, you know, Trump's talking about tax cuts and ways to inspire growth. And then I think that you want to align incentives with the space. Buy some. Everyone in this room knows that your relationship with Bitcoin is different as soon as you own a little bit. And so I think just making the United States a Bitcoiner, at the very least, aligns with the industry that's arguably the fastest growing and creating the most wealth. I mean, let's be clear. In 15 years, Bitcoin's created $2 trillion worth of new wealth. A lot of that's in this country. And at current growth rates, it's going to be tens of trillions of dollars over the next 10 years. So that was my suggestion to Naib. You're going to attract the most profitable company in the world per employee, and probably in the history of our species in Tether. You've got, Block and Square interested in El Salvador. You've got Michael Saylor meeting with El Salvador, and that's because of their stance. And then own some. Become in line and incentivized with the space. Put some skin in the game. I would say the same thing to Trump.